Intro. There we go.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there he was at the numbers, runway 31, getting ready for departure. I call up Tower, and I tell them, Rescue 6534 is ready to go, ready for IFR departure to 060, or ACY 060100. And there's this long pause on the other end. And my tower, the tower controller comes back with, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I look at my aircraft commander, she nods, and say, "Yeah, we're good to go." And he comes back with, Rescue 6534, with due regard, you're cleared as filed.
Due regard.
Regard. That's terrible. And that's how all the great aviation tales begin. Greetings, everybody. Repeat here, coming to you from Osaka tonight. They say it's Monday night here right now, but I don't see Monday Night Football, so I'm not entirely sure that it is. But anyway, so where's my co-horse today?
Well, I am in Newark, New Jersey, where it is Monday morning, and I think that's why there hasn't been a football game yet.
Maybe that's it.
But we have with us Sticks for a repeat visit. I guess I should use a different term, shouldn't I?
Yeah. A return visit. There we
For
go.
a return visit.
Yeah.
Return visit. Yes, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Welcome, Sticks. Yes.
I kind of feel like we're cheating because I've been working in the background, so it's not like it's been a challenge to get a new guest or anything. But anyways, it's awesome to be back.
There you go. Well, this week we're recording on a Monday morning this week, and that's largely due to me. I was out on a trip. I was supposed to be home Friday, and here I am literally halfway around the world, and I'm not going to get back until tomorrow night. So thank you, Sticks, for squeezing us into your schedule and joining us. And let's get some more of those Coast Guard tales out there. As the photo said on that you sent me, Elvis, if you're out there, we will find you. The Coast Guard's looking for you.
So yeah, go ahead, Fig.
I was gonna say, what the hell happened with launching into 00? How did that finish?
What were you thinking?
Whose idea was that?
We actually, this was a really interesting case. So we had, it was a medevac case. They were probably about a little more than 100 miles offshore from where we were. And, but only 40 so miles or so south of Fire Island, New York. And it was a case of severe excruciating back pain, rated at about a 10 out of 10 per the patient. And so we talked with our flight surgeon. We went back and forth with this. We're looking at the weather, and we are quite literally at 00. As I'm sitting on runway 31, literally all I can see are the numbers 31 and one centerline marker, at the midline of on the middle of the runway, and that's it. I can't see Tower. Tower can't see me. This is, and I'm 2 months into my first tour as a Coast Guard, as a duty standing Coast Guard aviator. So standard Coast Guard day, I guess. We're launched out. Our clearances, we filed for basically a point offshore, which is kind of unique. Most aviators aren't going to do that. So we pick a radial and a DME, and we say, okay, we're going to file 3,000 feet and make our way to that point. And we were in the goo the whole way. It was typical. It was early spring. So we're looking at you got temperature and dew point right on top of each other. And we're so we take off. We actually go ahead and we put it up on the modes. The Dolphin was fantastic in terms of its ability to do, it was a smart helicopter. So, heading select, altitude hold, then go ahead and couple up nav. And what was kind of cool is we actually, for the first time in my Coast Guard career, we used a rendezvous. So we kept the boat underway, with our victim on board. And so we kept them underway. We got their last known position, their course and their speed, and we plugged that in to our FMS, and then we're able to do a rendezvous. So we actually fly to a calculated point where we suspect they're going to be, which is, it's the computer sort of spitting that out. And so I think it was about a 45-minute transit. That was actually the easy part. Drop down to do it's called an ISVS, or indicated airspeed, vertical speed, commanded descent from 3,000 down to 1,500. So now we're getting down over the water. We're still about a couple miles out. And then
Tell me the weather's better out over the water.
Oh, no. We're still.
You're in the Clag the whole way then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, no, I got to walk you through the rest of this because it's not getting any better.
No, spoiler alert, he survived. He's here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I came back. So, we continue with this letdown. We get down to about 300 feet over the water, and that's sort of our working altitude where our approach to the water.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Somebody's jingling something in the background.
Sorry.
I'm getting a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's Sticks. I don't know what he's doing. But he's
all right,
jiggling something.
Stop doing it. Just talk.
Okay,
Put
sorry.
your keychain down, damn it.
No worries, man.
So we get down to 300 feet, and now we're talking about, okay, now what approach? We have a couple of different types of approaches that we can do to the water. First is we can do an IASVS letdown, or continue that down to 50 feet. Which is just a commanded descent and command back, we can set in 50 feet or 50 knots on airspeed. So we decided that's going to be our first attempt. So we're still following the track of the boat and where we're suspecting it's going to be. We're, making our descent somewhere around 75 to 100 feet per minute. And, we get down to where they should be, and we don't even see a wake from the boat. I'm actually flying the approach, so I'm the pilot flying with my aircraft commander as the safety pilot, and we basically don't break out. So now we're
now whose job is it? You're pilot flying, so you're on the instruments and the safety pilot's looking out, or vice versa.
Yep. No, I'm on the instruments. I'm flying. Okay. My aircraft commander is working the radio's working. Also got the radar up. We can see the boat on the radar, but we're not. We still can't see them. So we decided it should be there. We didn't even see a wake. That was the thing that had us most concerned. So so we take a go round, climb back up, hit back up to 300 feet, and now we decide, okay, we're going to try what's called a catch.
Hold on, Fig, did you hear that? Back up to 300 feet?
Yeah,
Oh,
I got that. I know. This is nothing about this story is right, Sticks. It's not right. But go ahead.
So we get back up to 300 feet, and I do basically a procedure turn, fly. Now we can paint them on the radar, mark their position, and I do what's called a catch, or a couple computer-aided approach to a controlled hover. They've since now changed that procedure to a patch, or a precision-aided approach to a coupled hover. So that's where basically we let the helicopter fly a procedure down, and it brings us into like a 50-foot hover over our target. So fly over the boat, we mark its position, come back around. We're now, it's sort of like a standard, almost like you're doing an NDB approach. So 30 degrees off of, as I fly over the point that I want to land at, 30 degrees to the right of, where I'm going to be intending to land. And I'm going to fly that leg down to 3 minutes, start a procedure turn coming down to 150 feet on my final approach course. And then about a mile and a half before the gate, we start flying through some gates where we come through, we're basically flying it at like 80 knots, we're down to 70 and 140, 60 and 120, 50 and 100, so the point where we get down pretty much into like almost like an air taxi at 50 feet, 30 knots, and we still don't find the boat. So back around one more time. And on this time, we actually decide, okay, for some reason, we didn't think George or the flight management system was doing what it was supposed to do.
So that's George is the autopilot.
George is our autopilot. We refer to him lovingly as George, and George is always trying to kill us. And that's pretty much how you fly. So now we're going to do almost the exact same thing, but we're going to fly it manually this time. So no, I take guidance from the computer, so I still am using the FMS, which gives me some command bars that I can follow.
Flight management system.
Yep. And what we were able to do was just we managed this time to pick up the wake. And so as we follow the wake in, we're following the wake in, it seemed like forever. And then I hear my aircraft commander, and I'm totally focused on the instruments. I'm at 50 feet and 30 knots. And all of a sudden she goes, target acquired, I have the control. So I was like, oh, thank God. So now all I have to do is be the safety pilot. And so we get over the boat, and now we brief up our survivor or the crew. And we say, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be setting you up on this course, and I think we set them up on like a northeasterly course.
Okay, let me ask a couple quick questions first. So you talked about NDB approach, non-directional beacon. What were you using as the point? The boat wasn't broadcasting anything, so
right, it wasn't broadcasting anything, but what we're using is the rendezvous, that point that's calculated from the GPS
by the computer. Okay,
right,
yeah, gotcha.
So
okay, and have you established radio contact with the boat yet at this point?
Yes. Yeah. But when we first got on scene and got overhead, they could hear us,
Yeah.
And
that was my question. Yeah. Could they hear? Keep it coming. You sound good.
Yeah.
You're jingling again.
No.
Okay.
No.
Keep it coming. You sound good. You'll be fine.
No.
Don't hit us.
Yeah. No, it's always like, it's just one of those things. We don't even really think twice about it, but yeah, it took us 3 attempts to get down to the water. And so now we're going to brief the boat up. We're going to tell them, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to, be putting our swimmer down. He'll make an assessment, and we're actually now also in contact with Station Fire Island. So I'm talking with the boat. I'm managing what's going on, or monitoring what's going on in the helicopter, and then I'm also listening to Station Fire Island as well as Sector. And because our flight mech is now getting ready to do a hoist, I'm now taking the radio guard. So I'm managing like 4 or 5 radios, plus managing the trying to make sure we stay out of the water. So
okay, I got to stop you. I got a couple questions before you go on.
Sure.
Is this a Coast Guard boat that this victim is on?
No, this is a commercial fishing boat. But
Okay.
we're getting ready to rendezvous with a Coast Guard boat.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So all sorts of different things going on at the same time. It's sort of like spitting plates is the best way to describe it.
Okay.
So anyways, we finally go through all of our checks and our procedures. We go ahead and we put our swimmer down. Fortunately, sea states really were not that bad, which is why it was kind of so foggy. If we had more wind, we might have, been able to have better visibility. So getting up on the port quarter of the boat, swimmer goes down. We do what's called a trail line deployment of the rescue swimmer. So rope gets, basically dangled down below the helicopter with a weight bag on it. We drop that down onto the port quarter of the boat, and we're actually at about a 35 or 50 foot, anywhere between 35 to 50 foot hover. Usually for a fishing boat, we're probably closer to 50 feet because there's all sorts of rigging and stuff to contend with. That trail line is then attached to the rescue swimmer. You boom the swimmer out, and then they're pulling on that trail line to help guide the swimmer into the boat. And that gives us the ability to stand off just a little bit from the boat so that we can keep better visual. And it works out really, really well. So we get the swimmer down. He makes an assessment on this patient, and it's kind of interesting, and it sort of gives you a little bit of foreshadowing on something else that's going to come down later in my life. We get a radio call back from the swimmer who says, hey, Rescue 3-4, this is Rescue Swimmer 3-4. Can I ask the co-pilot or Mr. Hall a question? This is totally now non-standard. And my aircraft commander's like, okay. And next thing you know, he starts telling me, he goes, hey, Mr. Hall, I just assessed this guy, and he's complaining of really bad back pain. He's pale, he's diaphoretic, he looks terrible. So I also had worked as a paramedic prior to all this. So he's like, do you have any other ideas or thoughts on what I should be looking for? So I just on a whim, I said, check his blood pressure on the right arm versus his left arm. And there's a 30 or 40 point difference between the two blood pressures, between the systolic pressure and the diastolic pressure. And so I pause for a moment and I sort of look, and we're now, the boat is now maybe 3 miles away. They can actually almost start, they can certainly hear us, and, they're making their way towards us. And I look over at the aircraft commander and I say, and, this was kind of rare. I look at them and I go, I don't think we should hoist this guy. And she looks at me and she goes, what? I'm like, I don't think we should hoist this guy. Reason being is that I think this guy has an aortic dissection. An aortic dissection. I think he's got a tear in his aorta, which is causing this back pain. And my concern was if we hoisted him, that we would the stress of that hoist would be enough to rupture that and we'd kill him. So I explain all this, and then the swimmer actually comes back and goes, I think Mr. Hall's right. And so we actually now make the decision, we're not going to hoist, we're going to move our litter over to the boat, and then we're going to bring him in by boat and then transfer him from the boat station by ambulance to the hospital. In this case, the difference is that you really don't want to overstress the patient because it could absolutely kill them. So there it was, and we decide, well, we've gone all this way to get up here to hoist this guy off the boat. We make the decision we're not going to. So we basically hover taxi behind the boat the whole way up and all the way back to Fire Island. And we scud running the whole way. They have a small helideck. We land there, and I'll send it to you. But I actually found I was looking late last night, and I actually found a picture of us sitting on deck at Fire Island with now the sky's completely clear. So ready.
Of course it is.
Exactly. And so the other question is well, was I right? And the answer to the question is yes. The guy had an aortic dissection, and the trauma surgeon from, I think it was North Shore Medical Center, that called us and said, yeah, I think if you guys had hoisted him, you probably would have killed him.
Well done, sir.
Better to be lucky than good, because you weren't a nurse yet.
No, I wasn't. Had not.
How'd you know that stuff?
Well, that's because I was a paramedic, and that's actually that is one of the conditions that we look for as a paramedic and I'd started as an EMT at Kings Point back in, so that was 1990. By that point, fast forward, I'm 2001, picked up my medic in 97. I had been a medic for about almost 5 years at that point. So been around the block enough to have seen a thing or two. So
well done.
So
all right. Yeah. Holy shit.
Very cool. All right. Well, and the patient survived.
Yeah, actually, he survived. Interesting side note, apparently, and this is something I did not know at that time, but he, our fishermen aren't always the cleanest individuals, and apparently he might have had gonorrhea, and
that's TMI there, brother.
Yeah, and that might have increased his risk for that condition.
Does that cause your aorta to get weak?
It can cause vascular changes. So yes.
Well, okay. All right. Well, so okay. Repeat. Put that. Well, that's a memory.
Yeah. Right.
Wrap your package, gentlemen.
Oh man.
Not that not that we're at risk. We just this is a public service announcement to our listeners, just in case.
PSA to all aviators.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wrap your package.
All right, Sticks. I want to know about rescue from an amphicar on Schuylkill River.
On the Schuylkill River.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's actually this one's actually pretty funny. So so there it was. We're on duty at the air station, and we get a phone call about. Oh, and it's never really occurs at any good hour, but it's like 10:30. It's relatively early spring, so there's been some heavy rains, but on the upside, it's kind of a clear night. So, but in the few days prior to this, we had some heavy rain. So, rivers were actually at higher levels than where they'd normally be, with flow rates that are much higher. And we get a phone call for 3 people that are stranded on a car in the middle of the Schuylkill River, and they give us the position, and we plot it. We look at it on a map, not even a nautical chart, because there's not even a nautical chart that covers this area, and we realize, okay, this is actually, there's like probably 7,500 foot walls on either side of this point of the Schuylkill River. And we're looking at this going, this is a little higher risk than usual. And so we start sort of mitigating this. Unusual, yeah. But we also then, I make a phone call and I go, who else have you asked to go do this? And then this list of other agencies. Well, they tried an air medevac. They tried, what else? They tried New Jersey National Guard, Pennsylvania Guard, State Police. All of them declined the mission. So,
oh man,
and we sort of
Hold
talked.
on, that's kind of a sign, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a sign? Hey, this is probably
this is what we call in aviation a clue bird strike.
yeah. So there's a sign, and then there's what we should have had a sign put on ourselves, like dumbass. What were you thinking? And so we decide, okay, well, we come up with a list of things that we can do to help mitigate some of those risks. And, we have NVGs, all of those other agencies don't. We're definitely going to plan it out. Although we're somewhat limited because we're obviously in a gorge, we got a multi-person aircraft. The majority of those other aircraft that were involved were single pilot. We're also very capable with hoists. They don't do a whole lot of hoists. To give you a benchmark, after 7 years of flying with the Coast Guard, I completed about more than 1,000 hoists, or so. I think it was like around 1,100. So,
man.
So,
and where was this in that continuum of 1,000? Where was this rescue?
So again, on this one, I'm also the safety pilot again, but I would probably still have done probably at least 200 or 300 hoists by this point. So,
okay. So you've got it figured out. You know what's
right.
going on for the most part. Okay.
Yeah,
you got some experience. Right.
And if I were to draw, I mean, it's maybe not the same thing because you're not obviously expending ordnance or anything like that. But, for every time, for us, a boat hoist is probably the equivalent of like shooting off some guns or some weapons from the AV-8. That's
it's your mission. It's what
right.
you do.
Yeah, it's our sandbox. So we get out there, and then of course, as we're heading out, we finally decide we're going to launch. We're en route, and we brief up the whole situation. We're talking with the fire rescue services on the ground, and we're wrapping our head around this, going, okay, well, what else do we, how did we end up in this situation? And the backstory is that this guy who has this amphibious car, it's a convertible, it's called an amphicar, and he would drive around town and offer to pick up people and then take them for a ride. And then he would go down, he would just drive around and then casually drive in towards where a boat ramp is and literally drive into a body of water and then motor around. Well, every time he'd done this before, he did it in a lake or a pond. And what you might not know about an amphicar is that it's good for maybe about 4 or 5 knots. And
how fast was the river running?
I bet the Schuylkill River's a little faster than 4 or 5 knots.
It's about 11 or 12 knots. So yeah. So next thing you know, they're going. He thinks he's picked up these 2 young ladies that he's going to surprise and take for a ride when he's actually getting taken for a ride. So
oh my God.
So, and he had already called his wife up and told this is the other little seed that I'll plant.
Man,
He had
the
called
wife
his,
and the girlfriends are about to meet.
yep, called his wife up and says, yeah, before he had picked these girls up, I'll be home in like an hour. 3 hours have gone by. And so we get down into this gorge, and actually one of the things we really had to deal with was some vertigo from this. And it affected everybody. And we realized as we were making our approach down into the gorge that our smacks or strobe lights were still on. So, and as we're sitting there and the strobe lights are bouncing off of the walls and then bouncing back up into the rotor system, and it completely started to disorient almost everybody in the plane. And, so quickly I kind of just, I don't even think I briefed it. I think I might have, as I was doing it, I might have said it. I reached up and shut off the smacks. And, and then the pilot I was flying with goes, that was a good call. So yeah, I can actually, and now I don't feel like I'm standing on my head. So that's actually called flicker vertigo, which is kind of rare. But you would experience it potentially if you're flying in the goo and you had your smacks on, and it's, especially if it's, in your situation where it's going to reflect back on you, it'll mess you up. So we get over these people, and, we hoist, the two girls first. We put our swimmer down. We're not doing a trail line deployment this time, which was a little bit of a challenge because, we're not sure that they were going to be able to know. We couldn't communicate with them what to do with the rope, so we just sort of decided that would be more of a problem than a help. So we put the swimmer down. He comes back up with the two young ladies, and then we go back down and we get the guy, and we bring him up, and he. So we then go over towards Northeast Philly. What they do with the car, we're like, yeah, well, that's your problem, not mine. We head up towards Northeast Philly. We drop these people off, and our op center did a good solid and actually managed to get a hold of the girls' parents so that they could get picked up. And then the guy calls us, as he's getting out of the helicopter, he looks at us and he's like, do you guys think you could give me a ride back towards, he wanted us to give him a ride back towards, South Jersey. We're like,
No.
yeah, nobody. It's like, I'm afraid you're on your own. And, yeah, and too bad for you. And you're going to have to deal with your wife because I don't think she wants to pick you up either. So,
wow.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, what time of day was it?
So the initial request came in at 10. The planning that we had, by the time we had sort of done our risk management approach to this, we were probably launching at about 10:50 or so, outside of the B30 window.
PM.
Oh yeah, PM. This is at night. Yeah.
So we're talking 12. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All
Yeah.
right. That's good times.
Yeah, that's because we were trying to avoid, we had NVGs, the other agencies didn't, and so that's sort of how we ended up doing that case, and why I think that got dumped in our lap.
So how long does the risk management generally take when you get or the risk assessment, I should say, when you get a call in? Sometimes longer than others, I guess, but.
So this one was obviously, we claimed an exception to this.
Okay.
Because it's an inland SAR case, and there's more things for us to consider and to have to plan for. In a typical situation, we would, if we're going offshore, that risk management process may take place while we're en route, and we'll talk about, okay, what are we going to do to reduce this risk? What are we going to do to fix that? And that's sort of where where that comes into play. And we'll set hard bingos, or sometimes what I like to do is as an aircraft commander, I'd set a window. It'd be a go no go point. Do we have the winds? Do we have the weather? Do we have enough information? Because a lot of times, as you're flying one of these cases, your situational awareness is building up as you go along, and because you're getting more information and how things are going to go and stuff like that. So.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, so You've
I wasn't
got
aware of that.
we've got some notes here about some things we wanted to talk about, and what I'd like to do is talk about you have three simultaneous. Oh, you know what? Let's do it this way. You've got one that's really kind of it's actually a sad ending, actually. So I hate to do this, but let's talk about that one. Then we'll break for a quick ad from our sponsor, and then we'll come back and talk about the one where you had a really good outcome. So if you could chat with us about this is a heartbreaker. I know you had a Boy Scout out on a whale watching trip, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. So it's early spring again at Air Station Atlantic City. This is actually shortly after I became an aircraft commander. So I'm on the first go, our first due, and SAR alarm goes off for what's called a PIW, or person in the water. And so and then immediately after that, normally that would just be the pipe, and we're putting the announcement, and then we're pulling helicopters out, they're fueling it, I'm getting changed into my gear. And we almost never really announced information about what the specifics were the case were. But that's
because they don't want you to make your no-go decision on that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But that makes sense.
But they also want you more just focused on getting yourself ready to go, and I'm gonna go to the operations center anyways to get the briefing. But the next thing that I hear over the 1MC is that it's a 14-year-old boy in the water.
Oh boy.
And it's off of a whale watching boat. So
hey, John, I'm sorry to interrupt again. Are you touching something on the desk or something like that? I'm getting a lot of background noise still.
Okay.
So all right, thanks.
Sorry. So anyways, I get down to the operations center, get the briefing, find out basically Scout was on the boat and he fell off near the bow, and he's in the water. One person had from the boat tried to jump into the water to recover him, and in the process, they could not stay in the water that long because it was so cold.
Yeah.
The field at that point, I took a quick peek at the weather. It didn't look that bad. We were maybe 1,100 foot ceiling overcast with, maybe 3/4 to about a mile of visibility. It's special VFR, but I can definitely do it. And then, I end up making the call that I'm going to. We're going to launch out, and we're going to try and we have a special VFR route that we fly coming out of Atlantic City. So basically pick up the numbers runway 31, then you're going to make a heading to this, sort of on a southeasterly heading. You're going to be out over the water. You pick up the Atlantic City Expressway, follow the Atlantic City Expressway out until your feet wet, and then you're going to follow the contour of the expressway to get down to until you can get out over the ocean and out through Atlantic City Inlet. So what happens is I get out about the field perimeter, and all of a sudden the ceilings are coming down. And I'm now down to like maybe 700 foot ceilings and less than a half mile of viz. I'm down to 500 foot, 300 foot. I'm actually at 250 feet and probably less than a quarter mile of viz. And so I'm now realizing I'm painting myself very quickly into a corner and I can't get out. So I managed to make sight, and I think it was either of a cell phone tower or maybe a light stanchion over the expressway. I'm not quite sure. And I quite literally do like this 360-degree turn, quite literally keeping it right off the right wing of the aircraft, or the beam of the aircraft. So basically do a 180, come back around, get back, follow the same way that I came back in. And what was surprising going back was it didn't look like it was getting much better. So I was like, oh shit. So we get back, I actually managed to get it back on deck. And then, while I was doing that, my co-pilot was already talking to Tower to basically get an IFR pickup. So basically, we came back in over the numbers runway 31. I don't even think we touched down. I was at like maybe 25 feet. And they handed us our IFR clearance just as we got to the numbers. So now, we're climbing up to runway heading and going to head up to 3,000 feet and then make our way basically down towards Cape May. So we're heading down to Cape May Wildwood. We end up shooting the ILS, or the instrument landing approach, into Cape May, and that actually brings you out over the water. And then you're approaching the airport, from the Del Bay. And so as we were coming in on the ILS, I think we got down to about 800 feet or so when we started to break out. We could see the water, the shoreline. So break off the approach, make our way over towards where the whale watching boat is, and start doing our search. And
hey, John, how far off the coast was this boat?
So they were, I'm going to say, about 23, 24 miles off. They were,
Oh, wow.
sort of
Okay.
almost in the middle, like halfway between the northern point and the southern point of the Del Bay.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've ever transited the Delaware Bay Ferry, but it's an interesting experience. So we're down there, and we start off with our first search because we have a relatively high area of probability where this victim is. So our datum, which is a term that we used, and that's sort of like the reference point about which the whole search is planned. So we've got a pretty highly accurate datum. So we start off with what's called a Victor Sierra search. And the Victor Sierra search is, it's almost looks like three triangles with the points of each triangle coming in right at the middle. And that, and what you're actually doing is you're going to fly a base course, typically into the wind, and then you're going to fly 3-minute legs. And you're going to make a turn 120 degrees, and you're going to fly another 3-minute leg, and then you're going to make another 120-degree turn to fly back towards datum. And then you're going to fly through on that course. You'll make another right turn 120 degrees, and then fly that 3 minutes, and then fly back towards datum, fly through datum, back outbound for another 3-minute legs. And then once you've completed that, you rotate it by 30 degrees and you repeat the process over again. The whole reason of flying a Victor Sierra search like this, or a vector search, is that you have a high area of high probability of detection. This is where you're most likely going to find your target. And so you want to saturate datum as best you can with as many passes as you can. And we're typically, in this case, I think we flew that pattern at probably 300 feet. And then, so after about 3 or 4 different iterations of the Victor Sierra search, we then got tasking from our operations center that we were going to do a creeping line search, was the next type of search that we were tasked with. That sort of sets us up downwind from where the helicopter, or where the person went in, and also, actually, I'm not going to say downwind, but a more set and drift, because it's going to be a combination of both wind and water that are going to be acting on our search target. So our search planners are constantly making adjustments for movement in the in our search target. So as time goes by, the area of focus for our search shifts, and it's constantly moving, and we adjust according to that. So now we're set up downwind, and we're doing relatively short legs. I think we were doing 3 or 4 mile legs, but the overall search of what we were doing was, so we're doing like 3 mile legs with like a 12 mile, working our way in 12 miles. So that's sort of what we were dealing with. And after we flew that, we then ended up with, what was it? I think we did one more parallel line search, and then by that point we were out of gas and heading back. And so the Coast Guard searched for 3 days for this young boy. And,
What was the time? Hey, what was the time frame that it took you to do those searches? How long were you out there in your helicopter?
So we took off with a max bag of gas. So we were about and I actually looked at the first sortie that I flew that day was a 2.7, 2.8. Then we swapped crews. The next Bravo crew came out. They flew another 2.5. We flew another 2.5. We swapped one more time. We flew a 2.8 or a 2.9, which left us with just like I ended my, or I didn't end that day, but my last sortie on that day left me with 7.8 hours. So I was 0.2 hours from becoming a pumpkin, which in reality
he had. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, which in reality means I can actually go out and fly one more sortie. Okay. And that's how we would sort of, if we were getting close to becoming a pumpkin, which our maximum duty day or flight time, if I think I'm recalling it right, I think it's 8 hours. So, you know, and to be very honest, like being in a helicopter for 8 hours is fatiguing. It's very tiring.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the damn thing's beating you up the whole time, Dick.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
so by the time you got out even to his location, his chances of being alive due to the temperature were pretty low, and probably his chances were zero by the end of your first sortie. It was now just a recovery mission, rescue, right?
Yeah, it very much was a.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest with you, and this is sort of where, you know, in my years in the Coast Guard, especially when I was flying, I made a routine. You know, it wasn't a routine, but when we brought somebody back, I would talk to them. I would ask them questions, and you know, and to find out like, okay, well, what went right, what didn't go right, and every single one of them to a T said, what was exactly, I'm thinking this through. So like we flew over them or flew near them at least 4 or 5 times before we actually ever located them.
Wow.
and that became such a common theme that I decided I didn't really want to ask those questions anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Right. Because how many did not bring back that you went right by them, right?
Yeah.
That's,
and that's hard to process, you know, and it was one of the things that in all honesty, actually had a much greater effect on me than I ever thought it would.
Okay. All right.
You know, and it's tough, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick minute to thank our sponsors. Come back. We got a couple more upbeat stories, and unfortunately, we have to make this a pretty short show, folks, because I've got to go to work. So,
damn it!
Let's say a quick thanks to Babbel. Yeah, a 4-letter word ending in K. Did you know that learning a new language affects more than just your vocabulary? It actually impacts areas of the brain that have nothing to do with language, like visual spatial span. That's important to us pilots. That's right, with Babbel, every time you dive into a lesson, you're not just learning words and phrases, you're expanding your cognitive universe. And here's a little secret. This fall, you can begin speaking a new language in just 3 weeks with Babbel. Why Babbel, you ask? Well, because it works. While other apps turn learning into a game, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are crafted by over 150 language experts. The aim? To help you engage in real conversations in a new language quickly. Let me share a quick story. Recently, I found myself in Paris on a trip checking into a hotel. And as a member of their points program, I get a complimentary breakfast, and I can also invite a guest to go to breakfast with me. Well, the clerk was just about to write my voucher when, out of the blue, I said, "J'aimerais que mon ami prenne le petit déjeuner avec moi, s'il vous plaît." That's right. I effortlessly asked for my friend to be able to join me for breakfast, and the clerk wrote out the ticket for both of us without batting an eye. Thanks, Babbel. Universities like Yale and Michigan State have conducted studies, and guess what? They continue to show that Babbel simply stands out. For instance, 15 hours on Babbel is akin to a whole semester of language lessons at college. Plus, with over 10 million subscriptions sold, it's evident that Babbel offers real language learning for real conversations. So are you ready to embark on your language journey? Here's a special limited time deal for our listeners to get you started right now. Get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/so-there-I-was. Again, that's 55% off at babbel.com/so-there-I-was, spelled BABBEL.com/so-there-I-was. And remember, Rules and restrictions may apply. Happy learning. So that was
We're
a
back.
sad case going in there, yeah. But we also have a point where you had 3 simultaneous cases as the squadron duty officer. Not 1, not 2, but 3. I guess
Yep.
that's a lucky number today.
Yeah. So actually, it wouldn't be, it was the SDO, but that's actually would be the senior duty officer. So
Okay.
basically, I'm responsible. I'm the CO's representative, and I'm responsible for both B0 aircraft. So we're in, it's again sort of mid to early spring. And we had a pretty severe thunderstorm that came, that we were anticipating some thunderstorms on this particular Saturday afternoon. And as we're sitting duty, I'm looking at the weather, and it actually, fortunately, as far as the airfield went, it went south of us. It went all through the Delaware Bay. But of course, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is going right through the Del Bay, and it's a beautiful spring day, and there's a bunch of people that are going to be out on the water. And quite literally, as the storm was sort of, and this was a severe, like we're seeing purple on the NEXRAD
Nice.
radar.
Very nice.
And there were 1 or 2 spots where I'm pretty certain if I were, I don't think I was imagining it, but it seemed like there were some hook echoes in there as well. So some of the weather conditions that were getting reported to us back from that area were like, 40, 50 mile an hour winds, like wind gusts, and just, heavy torrential downpouring rain. So I'm watching this blow through the Del Bay, and then all of a sudden, you start listening, you're hearing in the ComSend, you're hearing, Mayday is starting to roll in. And we had ended up with 3 simultaneous cases going on effectively at the same time. In fact, they were getting into distress to the point when they were making their Mayday calls, they're stepping on each other in the process of trying to do it. So
Me first.
exactly. And, we actually did have one boat where they said they had taken on so much water, they were about ready to capsize and they were abandoning. We had another boat that said they were completely disabled and being pushed. They were concerned they were getting pushed onto the shore or getting pushed out of the bay, actually, I think is what they had alluded to. And then we had one where we got an initial Mayday from them. We called them back, and then we heard nothing more. And we didn't have a position with them to work with. So we launch we get a small boat going out of Cape May, and I launch our first B0 aircraft out. And I actually am staying back behind because I'm going to fly the next sortie because I'm certain there's going to be another one. First crew gets down there. They go after the people where they knew their boat was going to overturn. They had 2 PIW. One boat, that boat actually had completely swamped, but one guy was managing to hold on to, I think, like a seat cushion, and the other one was holding on to a cooler. So the helicopter,
Stay close to the beer, folks.
exactly. Yeah. If I'm going to abandon ship, I'm abandoning with my beer. So the boat station actually picked up the guy, I believe, who had the seat cushion. The air station the helicopter got the guy who had the cooler. I don't recall. I don't think he brought the cooler back up with him. But I do have an interesting side story on something that I did bring back that I wasn't expecting to.
Okay.
And anyways, the helicopter then goes over, hoists the other guy off of the Coast Guard boat. They take them over to Cape May, New Jersey, because they're both pretty hypothermic at this point. Now that helicopter's after they had picked up their first 2, I made the decision, okay, we're going to launch the second B0 helicopter, which is me. So now I'm out looking for, our primary search target at this point is the boat that became disabled. And one of the things that when we do these search patterns, so we have, a couple of different types of search patterns, but what's also interesting to know is the track spacing between each of those legs. And that is predicated upon the size of the search target that we're looking for. So for example, if I'm looking for a PIW or a person in the water, that's about the size of a basketball floating in the water. You know, I'm going to be using a 0.1 track spacing, or about 600 feet between each leg. So you have to imagine that's actually insanely tight. You know, it's, if you plotted that on a chart, or looked at it on a map, that is really, really tight track spacing. So you can't even nav up the helicopter to do it. I always did it with heading select, and then would actually, this way I could line up on each of the waypoints and stay on each leg. But in this case, we're looking for a boat, so I've actually got 1/4 mile track spacing, so it's a little bit better, and I know I can work through it a little bit quicker. So like, we get through about 3 creeping line searches, you know, working our way up, and I'm now, it's actually getting close to being dark. We're, you know, sort of into that nautical twilight phase. I've got like a few hundred pounds of gas left, and I check in with the OPSEN, and they said, okay, well, you can RTB, refuel, and plan on, you know, the other aircraft's getting ready to go out. So they were going to be relieving us on scene. So I check back and I say, hey, can I do like a quick shoreline search? And they said, yeah, if you got the gas, go for it. So I knew that the winds were blowing a little bit harder than what we had initially been anticipating. And so as I'm going along the shoreline search, or going along to do this shoreline search, and I'm actually a little bit further outside of our projected search area. And as I was going along, I, you know, happened to look over, you know, we're at 300 feet over the water. We've got actually our night sun on, and just, you know, at the smallest little glimpse off to the left, and I'm looking out at the end of this jetty, and part of the jetty is awash with water, but I see what looks like I think is a boat. And sure enough, I, you know, then make my way out to the end of the jetty. They're sitting on the end of the jetty with their boat up on the jetty, are 3 people sort of all clumped together. So, you know, obviously, go ahead and get a rescue swimmer. Yeah. And it was, you know, and at this point, I'm short on gas. So I'm really short on gas. You know, I don't have enough to make it back to, I don't think I had enough to make it back to Atlantic City. But I then reset our destination to Cape May, which then gave me an extra 10 or 15 minutes of gas to work with. So we, you know, got all 3 back on board on, so 3 lives saved. And it was just sort of, it was kind of weird. I don't know what told me to go and do that shoreline search, but something, you know, I was like, you know, I feel like we need to go and look in that area. And,
wow.
Dumb luck.
Well done.
Nice.
All right, I have a
Done
question.
indeed.
I have a question for you, Styx.
Sure.
For our non-aviator listeners, you, when you were in the beginning of this story, you were talking about the weather, and you were talking about hook echoes.
Right.
What is the significance of a hook echo?
So a hook echo is actually, it's indicative of cyclonic movement. So typically it's associated with a tornado.
Thank you.
Yeah, just terrifying.
Which is bad.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Especially if you're flying.
Yeah, no bueno there.
Man,
all right.
No kidding. Well, we need to find one to close out with. Geez. Maybe what do you think? You got a short emergency room story? We got about 3 minutes for it. We need to wrap up.
Okay. So I fast forward a little bit. I actually had worked in the emergency room as an ER nurse for a number of years. We get it, and I now work as a nurse practitioner. But so I'm in the emergency room, and it's one of these insane nights where it's super, super busy. And I got this gentleman who comes in complaining of chest pain. So he gets basically a 6-hour cardiac workup. So we run a set of cardiac enzymes, an EKG, a chest X-ray. You know, basically, bottom line is we're trying to rule out that he's having a heart attack or anything like that. So, and he's sitting there with me for almost 7.5 hours by the time it's all said and done. So I've got his discharge paperwork, and I go in to talk to him, and, you know, his lab work is clean. His, you know, direction's going to be go follow up with your primary care provider. And as I'm sitting there talking to him, he goes, well, by the way,
here it comes.
Yeah.
by the way, I have a can of moose stuck up my butt. To which I'm like, no, you don't. And he's like, oh no,
wait,
I can't.
As in hair
moose, as in hair product.
Hold
the antlers.
No.
No.
So, yeah, no, I am not shitting you at all. And he wasn't shitting me either because he couldn't shit. But, and
No.
yeah. So, and I'm like saying to myself, I'm sorry, you don't sit in an emergency room for almost 7.5 to 8 hours to then say, by the way, I have something stuck up my
Sticks, he
butt.
forgot. He
was trying to
forgot.
find the
It's an
right
honest
word.
mistake.
I overlooked this little fact. So I call his bluff. Okay. So I order an x-ray of his abdomen because I don't believe him. And so you have to understand the physician I was working with that night actually had a rather unique signature that really looked nothing more than like almost a line on a piece of paper, so that you could potentially put an order in if you needed to, and you weren't, he wasn't immediately available. So he orders, and as a registered nurse at this point, I couldn't necessarily order my own chest x-ray or my own x-rays. But in either case, this doctor with exceptional foresight and not even having laid eyeballs on the patient made the
Doctor ordered the X-rays.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes, I didn't break any rules here. And I'm looking at the X-ray, and sure, there is something there. He's got a suit, something up in there. And I'm looking at this X-ray, and the doc comes around the corner and looks at the X-ray as well. He's like, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "Well, Dr. So-and-so, because of your absolute exceptional insight, when this gentleman said he had something up his rectum, you had the good measure to order a KUB." And he's like, "No, I didn't." "Oh, no, you did." And he looks at me and he goes, "Damn it." And it's like, "It's okay. I already paid surgery." So,
Wow.
So
Surgically removed.
obviously- Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No.
and that is but a drop in the bucket of bunch
Well,
of
we're going to have
stories.
you back for more of that. Absolutely.
'cause-
Because there's a lot more stuff we need to chat about.
Right.
Sadly, we need to wrap it up here tonight or this morning or whatever time it is, unfortunately. But
Does anybody really know what time it is?
But you know what? I got one quick challenge or one quick thing I want to throw out there for us. So with both of you guys being in the Marine Corps, if you've been listening to the show with Christmas coming up, do us a favor, get a picture of you with your toy, dropping that off with the Toys for Tots program.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Great.
That's awesome, man.
And we will post that up to our Facebook page.
Thank you. And thank you
I
for
love
your
that
service,
idea.
Sticks. That's a great idea, indeed.
Yeah, thank you,
for your
Sticks.
service. Appreciate that. And also want to thank our friend Dave Hamilton over at Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. He helps us with our advertising. Dave has some shows to go listen to: the Mac Geek Gab, the Gig Gab, and the Business Brain. Who's running our Facebook page there, Big?
That's Chase Cole. And I want
doing
to
a
say thank you to
fantastic
Chase for taking care of all that for us.
Indeed. And thank you, Sticks, for all your background help. And Brad Silcott over at BDSAviationPhotography.com for the use of so many images. He puts a lot of them on our Facebook page at facebook.com/SoThereIWas.us. Go look for it there in our group, So There I Was. Got a new page up this week. If you go to sothereiwas.us/rate or /review, your choice, remember one of those two words after the slash, you can give us a 5-star review. Not 4, not 3, but 5. Make it
5,
so.
baby, 5.
Yeah. Send us pictures of where you listen to the show, and more importantly than anything else,
Share the show.
Share the show. You got to go
Share the
do
show.
it.
Share
We
the
got
show.
and we got a couple of folks that we'll get them in the intro as well. But I want to say here, thank you on the outro. Thank you to Patrick Miller and Peter Simon. We talked about them last week. We didn't get them in the intro. We'll get them in the intro. Also, thank you to Chris Adams, who sent us some money back in September, and I just found it this week. So humble apologies for that. He was an Air Cav pilot back in the 80s, and we're going to chat with him a little bit, I think, soon.
thank
And
you,
also,
Chris.
and David Olson, a former Harrier dude himself, knows many of our guests already. And we got a new division leader this week by the name of Gary Falstaff. So thank you very much. Oh, and what's new on the store? Got something new on the merch store. SoThereIWas.us/merch.
Hoodies.
Got the
We got a
hoodies.
hoodie.
Got the hoodies. So, All right, everybody. In the meantime, until next week, in honor of Styx being here, don't let go of the collective.
Don't let go of it.
Don't let go of it.
Don't do it.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Oh, man. What do you say?
He said it's over.
It's over.